Welcome, beautiful ones, to the Legacy of Love, the return of the Divine Cosmic Mother, brought to you by New Earth One Network. And I'm your host, Sherry Lynn. And today I would love to announce this very special speaker, Grace Galzagorry, who I just discovered not long ago. And I can only tell you that my heart has opened even wider just listening to all of her beautiful work, her teachings. And I would just love to share some of this, have Grace share with all of us what it is that she discovered through her own. Grace had a medical crisis. She was a nurse for many years, a nurse practitioner. She was a professor at the University of California, San Francisco, and she was very much linear, moving outside of herself and in the mind. And then all of a sudden, life had something else in store for her, had her flat on her back in a lot of pain and agony. And I would love to have Grace go more into detail because it really is relevant to our awakening and our remembering and even the Kundalini energy moving through us and what happens. And so, Grace, I welcome you. And I thank you so much for saying yes to this very sacred conversation.
Thank you, Sherry. I really appreciate being asked to be here today, and I'm so grateful to meet you and to be part of this. That really just warms my heart, just touches me so deeply to be talking about the mother, the great mother, the ancient mother, the divine mother, whatever we want to call her, and to be in this space with you for these moments and for all the people who will be listening. Thank you. Thank you for hearing the call.
Oh, and she is so beautiful, isn't she? And you know, it's funny because when she awakens within each one of us, and I heard Grace sharing something. I've been listening, purging on Grace material lately, and it's beautiful. It really is. And so I encourage each one of you to go and Google her name. And Loren has a few of her the quantum conversations, I think it was, that you were on, where you were talking about the Divine Mother and how she's in all of our cells. She is part of our essence, part of our being. And we don't know this.
Right. I mean, we are only aware of our physical self in a sense, and the fact that we have our biological lineage of our mother, our parents, but we don't recognize the deeper vibrational elements of the mother that is actually throughout creation. It's not just in us, in humans, it's also in everything that's alive. It is really the very essence of life. And so it only makes sense that every one of our cells has that resonance at a very deep level and recognizes the call right now, actually, of the mother asking us to return to love.
Yeah. That's funny you say that, because originally that was going to be the name of this online retreat, Return to Love. But Legacy of Love, there's something so beautiful about that, especially moving into, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I don't know, there's something, legacy, the gift, the gift, and what is it that we leave behind? What is our legacy? What is the mother's legacy that most of us don't know until all of a sudden you feel her, you feel this expansiveness in you growing in this love, your heart's starting to open. It's like, what is happening to me? And so your story is even more like you really had a profound Kundalini rising awakening. And, like we were talking about that, Grace and I were talking about that before we started this conversation. And Kundalini is a funny thing. So many people want this to activate and awaken the Kundalini. But maybe you can share with viewers what happens when it happens so quickly and why that might not be such a good thing.
I actually didn't even know what Kundalini was when it came through for me, and it came through at Easter time. Even though I had crippling back pain for about 6 months, which I realize now, and literally had laid me on my back, really sort of very suddenly. I just started to develop back pain, sciatica, that eventually developed into neuropathy. But I didn't expect it. I just didn't know what was happening, except one of the things I remember clearly is that in that period, because I had no more distractions, I had to lay on my back. I became acutely aware of the pain of separation and how agonizing that pain was. And I was begging for freedom, begging the divine, just please release me of this separation mindset and liberate me. And so that just became my deepest prayer. And then the Kundalini rose at Easter, and suddenly my body just started writhing, and it just blew out my circuits. I became everything that I had known, things that I had even been teaching, completely gone. I could not remember. And I opened like dramatically into this vibrational reality, so that everything, all of nature, the trees, I mean, the things I would have thought were totally impossible started happening. All the waters would speak to me, the stones. Mary Magdalene started walking with me, and it was clear that it was just a whole other reality. And I was so grateful that a friend of mine sent me the Magdalene manuscript at that time, which really helped me to understand a little bit more of what was going on, but to really see this whole other intelligence that was underlying the world I had known, and then to try to adapt to that in my body. It was like electricity shooting through me, and I could not rest really. And eventually, I think it took about 9 months, I realized that I had opened my heart and my upper chakras, but then the womb stuff started to open, the deeper darkness started to come up, and it basically sort of squelched that. And I just went into what I would call a dark night of the soul for probably about 7 years in my body. I was just in terrific pain, agonizing pain, and I realized that I needed to learn to sync with my body, to sync with the earth, to sync with something deeper, and that there must be a way to heal this. But I can't say I didn't go through deep despair and darkness for quite some years, because everything I had known and that I had thought was valuable was gone. And in particular, that I loved physical expression. I loved dancing, I liked hiking, I loved everything to do with physical expression, and I couldn't even get out of bed. So that was for much of that period, I was just in too much pain. So it was a challenging, very, very challenging time,
to say the least, right?
yeah.
And so, I heard so much in that, and part of it I couldn't help but relate to my own experience, but it's separate from that. But you had to go through that though, in order for you to be able to discover what you did and to move on and to be of service to others. And yet, so at the time when you were, you had to separate too. It's almost like when they talk about the hero's journey and how we have to sort of separate from the identity, from who we knew ourselves to be, and from even everybody, almost those that are always around us, for that to collapse and to fall apart, to dissolve, basically. And so, and so part of it is the clinging. So what I'm sensing though is once you learn to stop clinging, even though the pain was still there, it was easier for you to move through it. Is that correct?
I wish it was that way, a certain kind of way, but it was a progressive journey, obviously. Even though during the Kundalini experience, I just realized, you know what, I'm going to flip out. I'm going to literally lose it if I think of the things I've lost. So I'm just going to focus on what's wonderful about being in oneness and being in this vibrational union. And there was a lot, and that's all I could do. It was all I could do for about 9 months. And then when it started dissipated, then I really faced the difficulty of being what felt disconnected in this kind of gray zone, and simultaneously suffering. And so gradually I did go through layers and layers of fear and anxiety to relax that, so that I could allow the greater flow that's within all of us to continue to fill me until that became the reality. So that shift in identity was in some ways complete, because I could literally not remember a lot of the things I used to know, and the identity I had, but I really didn't have a new one still. So I was somewhere in between for those years, and it literally it was a journey to I mean, layer upon layer upon layer of letting go of fear and anxiety and control, etc., to surrender into the reality of my identity being the whole, being so much greater than that, and that there was nothing I, in my separate identity, was going to be able to shift or change. That I was
Right.
actually part of that whole, and that it was a benevolent whole. I didn't think it was benevolent for a very long time.
No,
Very
you
long
had
time.
you had a tiny glimpse of that and then it was taken away. So did you struggle then to, because I can only imagine is, when you feel that connection, like I can feel this beautiful connection and then all of a sudden I haven't gone, I had my own things falling apart in a different way than you did, but you had that beautiful connection of oneness with everything. And most people in their whole lifetime will never experience that. And you did, and it lasted for quite some time. And then to have it stripped away where you went into the dark night of the soul, did you feel like you were being, like, what happened to you? What was your mindset? Did you feel like you were being punished? Did you feel like something happened? Did you understand that you were healing? Did you know that that's what you were going through? Is that you were
No.
healing all your trauma from past lives and that? Or what? Tell me more about that, because you went from a really, really high, like elevated state of connection, oneness with the divine, to uh, like not even feeling that anymore.
Right. And
That
still
would be
being okay.
hard. That would be very, very hard
Thank you
and a
for,
little frightening.
yeah.
Quite frightening, I would
Yeah.
think, like, and I'm not trying to laugh because I can laugh with you now that you've moved through it, but when you're moving through it, it feels very real.
Yes. And actually, I had no idea even that this is, in a sense, the spiritual path of the feminine, that we do have to purify our bodies and our hearts, because this is way before current. I mean, this was, at least 10, 15 years ago. So it's not like there was anyone talking about this. So it was completely, I was just in the dark. And on top of that, I was being worked up repeatedly for cancer because I had some weird changes in my bone marrow, etc. And so I really had to go through um, just all I could do. The only practice that I did consistently was stay in the present moment, stay in the present moment, stay. I gave up on having a future, planning a future. I really thought I was going to die multiple times because I also had these awful, awful infections because my immune system was going through quite some turmoil, and also because I had Lyme disease supposedly, and I also have an autoimmune family disease that I don't even know what role those play, but I know the Kundalini can really generate or activate a lot of that sort of faulty lineage stuff. So biologic heritage stuff. But I didn't know, and I just think it's the grace of God that I made it through those years, and several friends who sort of stuck with me, because I literally felt like I had nothing to offer, and I pretty much did, but I had to just keep surrendering and stay in the present moment, stay in the present, because that was a huge practice, because we're so conditioned to be trying to think how we're going to do in the future. And I literally didn't know if I had a future, and I was terrified that I was dying half the time. So it was a pretty dramatic time.
That would be very dramatic, very, And so now I'm trying to figure out a way to weave in, we go you go from connection to separation, and then all of a sudden, I know that you were raised in a religious environment. You were brought up as Catholic, um, and so you had the masculine connection to God, to the divine. And then all of a sudden, where does the Divine Mother? I know she really plays a strong role in what it is that you offer and how you serve and how people remember. And it's so beautiful when the Divine Mother comes in, because she's just, there's no denying that she's within us. And so where did she, like, how does she come in all of a sudden? The Divine Mother, where did she fit in for you? Because I know she's part of me now too. And I still am amazed. It's like, where did you come from? Because all of a sudden you're here. And what do you think that was? How do you think all of a sudden you went from that separation to knowing that she was with you?
Well, I learned this healing that really called to me of healing trauma. And again, it was way before healing unresolved emotional trauma. And as I pursued that healing, I started to come into relationship with my body, which is, I think, one of the big tenets of the Divine Mother is to be in conscious relationship with our bodies. And as that progressed, I just went deeper and deeper, and it became not just about. I had a lot of violence in my childhood in this life, but it became. I just went deeper and deeper into past lives, and then other people started to come to me for healing, and oftentimes they would. Every time it was amazingly synchronous. What those people presented and what I was going through was always like such a divine synchronicity, and gradually I moved into the awareness of being a Christ in previous lives and some of the trauma that happened around that. And then it became more and more apparent that I was not just healing myself, but I was also healing those around me. And then I had what I call Christ birth on my birthday, which again, I wasn't really that aware of the Christ consciousness in many ways, but I just saw the whole thing unfolding and went through major panic attack as that Christ birth was happening. And then subsequently went through at every equinox and solstice, because then I realized that this is really the mother starting to come through, and the mother is connected to those are sort of the holidays of the mother, if you will, started to come through. And at each one, then my consciousness evolved to the next level, and I was given the name of the level of the Christ consciousness that it was. And then eventually I went through a huge process that was the crystalline opening, or the crystalline consciousness birthing, which again completely transformed my life. But at that point, I was healing not only those around me, but also Mother Earth. And so when I was in that, I mean, because it was such and doing this healing work is just so deep that it just became that I was just going deeper, deeper, deeper. And I realized that the Divine Mother actually is the lower part of our body, the chakras that have been denied and neglected, and that those need to be healed and purified in order for us to come into connection or merge with her consciousness, and that it is the same consciousness that gives life to all that's on this planet, including the animals, the plants, the trees, all of that. And in order to be in communion with that, then we have to be in communion with our own lower body. I mean, really be open to that flow. And then, so as I progressed in that consciousness, I started to realize that that I could merge with the moon, the sun, the stars, that it was all part of the oneness that I am. And it would come in my healing, and in particular events that were happening on the planet would come in through my body. I mean, it's obviously I'm no longer a separate body. I am the one body of love, or of consciousness creation here. And so that's how it just evolved organically, because I didn't know anyone else that was doing this. It was just through my healing work that it taught me what was happening, and even what it meant to be in oneness, that it was really through the body and the purification of the body and raising the vibration of the body. So it's not a mental concept that we are going to make ourselves do something, but rather an organic rising emergence of that consciousness that is oneness.
That's so beautiful. Part of it wasn't, but that last part is, because it's not a mind thing.
Right.
None of this is a mind thing, and it really is a healing journey for each one of us.
Yes.
We're everybody says that we're evolving, and yes, we are, but we're healing from this past trauma. All of us have this separation from the mother wound.
Right.
Because how many people knew that there's a feminine face to God?
Right.
I know I didn't.
Right.
And I even know when I was telling you, Grace, that for me, it was my eyes, right? And so I had no choice but to go within. And when I first went within, I didn't go to church. And so I was the one who was like, and have a right to ask for pray. And I remember even listening to Carolyn Mace on prayer because it's like, I don't know how to pray because I knew that prayer wasn't just this, recited words that you say. So there was a deep knowing within me too that I knew that my soul also probably is like, okay, this isn't happening. You need you signed up. You agreed to be one of those ones that was going to awaken and help humanity. But we, you can't just awaken without realizing that there's a lot of healing, that there's a lot of trauma from previous lifetimes too. And when I'm in trauma training, but one of my things was that I had asked her was, do we not have to heal trauma from previous lifetimes? Because I feel like that's part of what we're bringing in. And so it's healing so many aspects of ourselves. And so, yeah, it's like we can't really connect, get our heart to open until we do the healing. And that's where you're saying the mother is here to help us heal these chakras, these lower chakras, physical, so we can open our heart and we can connect with our spiritual nature. And she's with us the whole time. But somebody was actually sharing that the Kundalini, as it moves up us, is the mother. If our consciousness is going with her, if it happens too quickly, well, then that's not the mother helping us rise. You had a different one, obviously, because if you're part of the lineage of Christ, of Jesus.
Right.
Huge, I mean, you obviously were the soul that had to awaken quick. You had to, and it wasn't
Right.
happening in other ways. So it's like you're going to do this now. And I guess it was beautiful that you got to experience the oneness. So you
Right.
there. So
Exactly. So that I knew what that
yeah,
reality
you
was.
right. And then you
But
went into the dark healing work.
yeah, yeah. And I do think that part of our part of our role as humanity is that we are part of this planet, and everything that we've done to ourselves, really, I mean, we always think of everything as being out there, but it's really that it's the relationship with ourself, capital S self, that we have to really reconcile. That's our responsibility, and we each are being called to do our part in that. And most people want to like do something out there for the planet, etc., but I say that all the whole work begins within ourselves. And when we are able to align and be in relationship, in a conscious and mutually respectful relationship with our body and our hearts, then we are naturally emanating that. It isn't efforting anymore. It's just being what we are. So much beyond doing, to just
Yeah,
be.
I can feel that. I don't know. There's something so beautiful about when love enters, and let's talk about love
Okay.
because this is all about the legacy of love. So, what would I know that so many of us coming from the physical, think of love totally different than what actual universal love and consciousness really is, this legacy of love. Would you like to expand on that a little? I'd
Love
love to hear more.
to. I my sense is I work a lot with a divine feminine, divine masculine, because it is really the intermarriage in a sense of those two, the beautiful dance between those two of respect, honor, that brings about the Christ consciousness, which is a third entity where those are blended together. And to me, the divine feminine is love and the divine masculine is light. And and actually in the body, it's represented in the upper chakras are the masculine and the lower chakras are the feminine. They come together in the heart. So it is a dance of love and light. But the love is really the essence of life itself. In other words, love, I mean, it's called chi prana. To me, that's what universal love is. It is creation. It is the Kundalini energy. It is that which, it's so much bigger than what we've known, because we've had a separation in our belief about love and think that we are being benevolent and loving someone else. And then we've equated approval with love. Has nothing to do with that. We are the ocean of love because we are surrounded and are immersed in that ocean, but we don't understand that that's truly our divine essence. We're not doing love. We are being love, which means just being one and merged with all of creation, because all of creation is created through love, through the we can call it Kundalini, but that creation power of the Divine Mother that is the most powerful impulse on in the cosmos is this creation power of the Mother. And I think we have come to really demean love, and part of that has come through religion of separating and saying that we have to love others but not ourselves. That diminishment of the self is a huge disservice that's been done to us, because we've become so disempowered and not realizing that you can't love another if you don't love yourself, and ultimately not just love yourself, but become that conduit of love, that you purify your body, that you are just a flow of love. You're no longer doing it, you are being it, and everyone is one in that field.
That's another beautiful statement too. So what's coming to me with that one though is, I think this is why, from a religious perspective, even though I didn't really do that, it's just like you be of service, right? And love God first. And when you're not sort of attached to any religion, that seems very scary. It seems like, well, why would I do that? Because that's really the personal self thinking, that God in the sky, the man, the masculine, and so I can see where service makes it so that we learn to love ourselves without even trying to love ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So if all of a sudden, if we took the word God away and you call it something else, you call it love, or the Divine Mother, or whatever it is, and we understand that in order for us to open to our greatness and our remembrance of this is through service, and it is through devotion. And then naturally self-love comes without even having to work at it. Like nothing. For me, that was my experience, right? Because I did not love myself. In fact, Grace, I was very codependent. I gave my power away to everybody. I picked all the wrong people. I was desperate to be loved, because I never felt that for myself. And so I always wanted somebody outside of me to fill something that they never could fill. And I understand that now. It was never going to happen that way until I understood that. And that was the gift in the eyes, right? Not making my outer world not making sense, is to go within and understand that I am the one I've been seeking, because then I can make that connection to the divine. And so, for me, what I'm hearing and sensing is that when we emphasize self-love, if people just understood that when we say service and loving the divine, through those things, that everything just comes naturally without even having to try to achieve, but not in the religious aspect of things. Does that make sense? I feel like maybe I wasn't very clear on that, but there's something to that though, because I do know that self-love, when we hear self-love, I still think it's the personal self that's hearing those words.
I'm sure that it is. And I think a lot of people have so much programming about it's a sin or wrong or selfish to love oneself. But I just want to take this a step further, because I teach self-love. Every winter I teach a self-love course, and it is really about the dance between the masculine and feminine that's happening inside of us, to become conscious of that. Because self-love is really about recognizing that you are divine, right? That's really what it is, to merge with your divine self. And that the practices that are sort of seem more external of self-love eventually lead you to recognize that you are that. So there's no loving someone out there or loving someone else. It's just being true to your divine nature, which is love and light. I mean, truly, that is who you truly are. So it is this dance, what I call self-love, is the dance of the masculine and feminine, is to bring them into synergy with one another so that the masculine isn't suppressing the feminine, because we can see it all out there, but you got to look inside about how you suppress your own feminine, how you suppress your own heart, how you suppress the instinctual and the intuitive and vibrational reality of this world, and address that at a very deep level. That's why I teach self-love at a very deep level, because to become aware of the ways we judge ourselves, reject ourselves, criticize ourselves, instead of looking out there at how others are doing it to us, look at how we're doing it to ourselves, and heal that relationship between the masculine and feminine. And that makes everything out here starts to just be so beautiful, because it's all
Right.
serving you then, because you've got that going on inside.
Right. How they say that life is a reflection of what's going on within. There really is something to that. So
Yes.
when we're seeing chaos, it's because there's chaos inside that needs to be cleared up.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's kind of difficult. Even like, I love the sacred. I love absolutely everything about the sacred. I love the Divine Mother. Like I am she came in and she surprised me, and I don't know where she came from, but it's such a beautiful, loving, soft, and my heart just keeps opening more and more and more and more. And if only everybody could just sort of like tap into that, even for a moment. And then you don't like you for you connected with everything and it was bliss for a bit, but really, I mean, most of us will never get to that point, but just trusting and having faith that there really is, we really are the soul on this journey. And we really are here to remember and to evolve and to connect, to connect with our divinity. And so the Divine Mother is helping us. And so, and I know that you work a lot with Mary Magdalene too, and I love her. This is so new to me, Grace. I did not grow up with any of this. And through my own unfolding, it's like if somebody would have told me you're going to serve the sacred and be like, the divine, and I would have been, no, that's not going to happen. No, but it did. And so our soul really truly has a different agenda than the mind does.
That's an understatement. It most definitely does. And actually,
Yeah.
in the healing work that I do, because I work with spiral into past lives with people, I can see that the soul always has had an agenda, but we've been so shut down to the feminine that we haven't known how to heal. That's part of the reason it's all happening so quickly now, because the feminine is coming in so strongly. And it is our only avenue of healing this planet, is embracing the divine feminine. And certainly the Divine Mother is here to help with that, but she's the most compassionate and most loving aspect of the feminine. Obviously, I mean, she has her moments because
Oh,
she
I'm
is
just like any mom, right? Any mother.
exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. It's all beautiful, but it is beautiful that the divine feminine is truly arising with all of us, and even the masculine too. They need this too,
Oh yeah.
and so it really is a deep wound of the feminine to because of so much that's happened in our past lives and everything too. But it's a wound for all of us too, because even the men, I can't even imagine being a man trying to, there's just so many expectations that we have, so many conditions. And that balance of the masculine and the feminine is such a beautiful synergy within our bodies. And then that connection, that opening of all the chakras and this energy that's flowing through. And you're so connected to that. And you're so connected to these vibrational frequencies and things that move through you. In fact, I hope you don't mind me addressing this, because I'm just going to say it because when I was watching your interview with Loren and you were doing the meditation, by the way, everybody should go and listen to your conversations and that too. And but you're moving like holy moly, the Kundalini is moving through you. That energy is like truly taking over.
That's right. It does. And I know better than to try to stop it because it's impossible. And it also stops the flow for whatever I'm doing in a sense. But
Yeah.
I actually didn't understand that in Egypt that they worked a lot with that Kundalini, that serpentine energy. That's why I was so grateful to get the Magdalene manuscript, because my body just started doing that because I
Yeah.
remembered that from past lives. And I have to just let it flow when it arises because it's really powerful and it does take over. It's
I
not
could
something
see that. I saw that. And even, for me, it was like, because you're the first one that I've really witnessed anybody like going into this, like the energy moving like that. And I know what it is and everything, but so when they say subtle energy and stuff like that, it's like, I don't know, the word subtle is a little misleading because it's like very powerful energy that moves through us.
Right. It is. It is. And actually, many in the past, particularly when we had very patriarchal spiritual past, people almost dreaded having Kundalini awakening or Kundalini move through them because it's painful. And it's painful because it is really the mother breaking the barriers of being out of touch, blocked to connecting with her and feeling her energy and flow. And in my experience with the healing now, it's very obvious to me that that flow has to be so fluid. And so many illnesses now, there's no solutions for. And the solutions are almost worse than the problem for many, as you know.
I
And
do.
and it's really a calling for us to recognize the other thing about love that we don't realize is that it's so powerful. It is the greatest power. That's the Kundalini energy is the power of love, and it is not. It's the greatest power on earth. And we've come to think, oh yeah, it's namby pamby. Oh, that's nice. Little butterflies, flowers. Minimize. I'm going to tell you, it has the power to heal everything on this planet,
Yeah.
and it will just blow you out when you allow and open to and are willing to release your blocks so that you can know health, vitality, and vibrant energy running through you. I mean, it is not a small energy.
No,
Small
no.
energy.
So even your self-love course that you were talking about too, then you would help people understand that too, because most people don't understand. Well, I don't know about most, but a lot of people don't really realize the power of this energy that moves through us. And it's actually, even when it moves through each one of the chakras, is like a level of consciousness and awareness. And so if we don't have that stuff cleaned up, like if we're trying to force this energy, through breath work or through yoga or whatever of a other kind of practice, and we're not prepared, our consciousness hasn't shifted and evolved enough, that's very dangerous for the psyche, which is what you experienced. But you went really, I don't think there are going to be too many people that have what you had, because you went through all past life healings and everything too. And I am aware that as we heal more of the personal self, then we begin to heal the aspects of soul, past lives, ancestral trauma, and things like that. And so healing is never done, because we're continually, and then you're healing humanity. Like you just move from one level of healing to another.
That's correct. I tell you, if
Yeah.
I
And
had
you were,
known, I was like, oh, I was just trying to free myself of pain. Had I known that once I was clear with myself and my part of the lineage that I needed to continue, I don't know.
you
That would
would
have
have
been,
checked out.
that was
Good thing
like quite a
that,
commitment that I wasn't
yeah.
aware of.
Yeah, good thing you didn't know what you know now. But
Yeah,
everybody has such a unique experience with everything. And and we have to be okay with that too, is
right,
because this is where the mind really comes in with comparing and feeling like, well, I'm not getting that. That's not
right,
happening. And then
right.
we get on this track of wanting to rush our spiritual growth. And that's not the purpose. The purpose is the journey. The journey is the our evolution and unwinding and unraveling and discovering. And it's all beautiful when we just come to terms of acceptance, I guess, that I am the soul on this sacred journey. And I'm going to let this power, source, creator, by mother, God, whatever, guide me through this. And
Yes.
something magical happens, even when it's like your case is not the same. But I can say for myself, even though 4 years of my life didn't make any sense, I wouldn't change any of that for a second, because had I gone on the other path and had it not happened, I still would have been attached to the personal self, and the personal self would have been trying to set up a business for myself based on that. And I would never connected with my soul self, and then with the masculine aspect of God, and then the feminine, now the mother. And so I wouldn't have known that that was in my soul's plan. And
Right.
so if we would just like allow whatever our soul has signed up for.
Well, I really appreciate what you're saying, and I want to emphasize that about, because we are really programmed, and in particular because I work so much with healing the body, we are programmed to think, well, let me just go to the doctor or some provider and get some pills and I'll be fixed, or have surgery and just cut off the offending part. But we're not getting that there is a history there, and that your soul is in charge, and that in fact now in this era of the mother, in my mind, we are coming to the recognition that the body has the intelligence and the wisdom of the mother, and that it is bringing through our next and our next and our next. And you can't rush that. It's not about cutting off some offending part and then carry on with the same consciousness you had before. It's about the evolution of consciousness, which is the huge gift of the healing of the body through love, that I think we miss, because we're so programmed to think, oh, just fix it, this very linear idea. And the mother works in spirals and in circles and in rhythms and in cycles, and that's what we need to really surrender to and adjust to, is the recognition that both are important. The linear isn't not valuable, but we have to
Right.
really realize that everything in nature operates according to the cycles, the rhythms, even the lunar rhythms, etc., that influence the tides. There's cycles to everything, and our healing is the same thing. Our evolution is the same thing, and we have been programmed to think that we can control and make something happen, practically overnight. And this is an
Yeah.
erroneous concept. We have really a very patriarchal concept that
Yes.
we need to cede now to the mother's intelligence, which is
Mm-hmm.
reflected through our bodies and our own healing experience. And even
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about your eyes, I can't tell you how much healing I'm doing on the eyes now, because we've been deceived and we're dominant in the eyes, thinking that what we see, we believe, and we don't believe the vibrational, energetic, the feeling realm is equally
Mm-hmm.
valid. We don't think it is. We think it's just what we see. So we discount our other senses, and all of them have to come to the table in equality in order for
Right.
balance.
Right. And for me, I guess I was lucky because I was always a feeler, right? And so I can't not be a feeler, and that was a gift. Now I used to think it was a curse because it just hurt to feel so much, but
Yes.
that is how the heart opens, though.
Yes, it is.
So
Actually, it's
we
one of my
can't. Yeah, we cannot. People who are so used to thinking and if I take this and if I take that, and although trainings like even like yours and everything are beautiful gifts that we can offer ourselves for helping the mind get in sync with the heart, to start to kind of get that ego to soften to what it is. It's a little bit, especially for people who are very left brained. Sometimes they need that. But even you said to me before we started recording that, well, you forgot everything that you knew, like everything you had trained for. It was completely wiped from your memory, and then you were trained etherically by.
That's right.
So talk to the viewers about that.
Well, it was, I mean, I was trained etherically, but I was also trained through my own healing journey to understand and to really be patient and to surrender and to surrender and to surrender over and over
Mhm.
and over to what was arising. I had many experiences like this, but I'll just tell you one, which was quite interesting. I kept getting shingles infections, which were incredibly painful, but mostly in the left eye. And the left eye is representative of what I call the rogue masculine and seeing the world through that level. And at one point, I just was terrified of losing my vision because I know from my Western training that shingles in the eyes pretty much leads to blindness. And so it was always, my journey was always about surrendering. So I finally realized that my greatest fear was going blind. So I just faced it, and that's that, embraced it, surrendered, and said, okay, if this is my journey, then let me surrender to blindness, to being blind in my left eye.
Mhm.
And I don't mean just like a mental surrender, I mean my whole body. I felt what it was
Right.
like. I sat with it, and I just I cried, and I just
Mhm.
allowed the whole feeling to come through me. And literally the very next morning, my left eye start just, I saw from the very depths of it the emergence of a crystalline ball, and my eyeball became this crystalline ball of light, basically, and all the shingles was healed. And that,
Wow.
I realized that surrender, and my body kept asking me to make those kind of surrenders, to surrender past fear, past trying to control and hang on to my vision, just be willing to surrender to what was emerging, to trust that there's a greater intelligence that's running the
Yeah.
show here, and that I don't, most of my training, all of it is based on fear, and also on separation, compartmentalization. That's really what Western medicine.
Okay, so we're back. I had to stop that portion with Grace and I as she was talking about her eyes because there was a trigger for me as I shared. I went through my own eye journey, and so something was coming up. And it was funny because I said to Grace, I think it's my candle. And Grace said, no. So I'm going to let you explain because you actually did a healing for me. It just
Oh, this
came
was
up.
actually a live demonstration of what I'm
Yes.
talking about. To be the emanation of love means that you are naturally healing and lifting everything in your field into a higher vibration. And it just so happened, and I just want to point out that Sherry did think that it was the scented candle that was making her start coughing. And in fact, it's always something that's arising from the inner that creates the outer experience, but we are so tuned out, we always think it's the outer. So this is one big lesson about that I learned in terms of what healing really is, but also that Sherry's thymus, which is the high heart, was really activating, and I could, and the what we call the heart is the divine masculine heart, the divine feminine is the thymus. And I could feel that Sherry's, when I tuned into it, I could feel constraining energy around the thymus. And I really got that this was a calling, even though it looks like the problem is with the eyes. And I hope that I can make this
Yeah,
clearly. The
absolutely.
eyes, the body is serving our evolution right now, because the body is the intelligence, the wisdom of the mother. Every cell in our body has that wisdom. So whenever something is happening in our body, it's not about squelching it or cutting it or pushing it away. It's about embracing that. So for Sherry, there was her eyes, the problems she's having with her eyes is because she's being called to come inward instead of just believing what her eyes are seeing, which is a big calling for a lot of humanity. Has specific issues probably for Sherry, but what was coming up was that the thymus was being constrained, and I got that the calling of her eyes is to open even more deeply and to surrender even more deeply into the divine feminine, into the heart, to recognize, to receive the love, to receive the grace, to receive that which the divine feminine is bringing in, because she could be supported more in her journey in this opening and surrender. That the eyes are really always sharing. If you have issues come up with your eyes, just don't even go into the physical, just go into the emotional, spiritual. Let me surrender more into greater love, into greater grace, into greater compassion, and forgiveness, etc. All the qualities of the feminine, to and it will heal your eyes. You don't need to worry about that. This is where the focus needs to be.
What a beautiful thing. You know, I knew I was so excited to meet with you today too, because I truly have fallen in love with your work and honor and thank you for serving me and for serving others and helping us remember this. And yeah, there was something definitely. And then as you were talking about my thymus and that and the divine feminine and that, I could feel the energy and for me to receive more and to go within more. And again, another beautiful, another layer that's ready to move and to unfold. And so for that to happen, this is where I need to go again. So it's like
Exactly.
I was saying the other day too to somebody, it's not really like it's like we talk about evolving, but it's really instead of evolution, it's more like it's an involution. It's like you can't, in order to take it out there, first we have to go within.
That's exactly right.
And every one of us, there's not one of us that isn't being asked to do this.
Well, I think we perceive evolution and moving out in a sense and even expanding out, but we don't realize that we have all universes, all realms exist within us, and they're actually within our physical slash vibrational body. And all of that needs to be embraced. We need to just come into deep communion with ourselves. And in order to do that, we really do have to purify the density in the places of discord where we are blocked or have barriers to being able to allow that flow to just move through us.
It's funny that you said purify because one of my favorite words is now purity. And I guess that's maybe because that's what I'm working on is purifying my body. And so I'm drawn to the word purity, the vibration of that word. Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about vibration a tiny bit more?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's a tough one. Most people don't really understand, myself included. You know, I'm still learning about it too, but there really is something too. Was it you that I heard say our voice is a vibration of all of our previous lifetimes?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah.
And actually, there is people, some spiritual paths that just study the voice because it spirals deeper, deeper, deeper into all past lives. And if you're singing or toning or whatever, and you get caught somewhere, I mean, there's a catch in your voice. That's just a past life, some kind of unresolved emotional trauma that needs to be cleared. You could actually do it through your voice. So it's very interesting because the vibration of your voice is also one of the greatest healing tools that we have because that vibrational field soothes our own cells. That's how we
Mhm.
become a mother to ourselves in a way that, the mother singing to us is one of the most healing, even in the womb, in utero, we can feel and hear our mother's voice. That is
Mm.
one of the tools that we don't realize is really a great healing tool. But everything, as we're moving into this new world, the way I see is that we are moving much, much, much more into the vibrational realm because that's really the depths of who we truly are. Even quantum physics tells us that we are vibrational beings. All
Mhm.
the subtle bodies, the vibration precedes form. The formless precedes form. So if we can master the formless, the form just follows. It's amazing. People don't realize that. They think, oh yeah, well that's nice, but you got to also do something about the physical. You do to a point, but you really have to address the vibrational realms that precede form. And you could call it the subtle bodies or the energetic bodies, etc. But in my work, that is infinite. That is really the infinite consciousness of the divine mother or the divine feminine. That is all the vibrational, all the formless is the feminine. And then when it comes into form, that's the masculine. And we've come to rely way too much on the form and not recognize that the feminine and the vibrational actually precedes form, and that in our divine design it is the feminine that's meant to lead. So if we get in touch with our hearts and the vibrational impulse of the mother coming through our cells and our body and understand the vibrational reality informs everything. So I can know what's going on with all kind of people because I can feel it in my body. I can feel it from your emails. I can feel what's happening without having words, and words are slow. The
Yeah.
vibration is moving much faster than that. And as we move into our next iteration, the next evolution of the species, we will be communicating telepathically and through sound and through light. That moves much faster than how slow we're moving right now.
Right. That's fascinating to me. It's fascinating when I always, when you connect with somebody who is so tapped in, and yet we can all experience that. It's just,
Absolutely.
I mean, it really is the mind, I think, that keeps us separate from that because it feels like it's so impossible, but yet I know that it's possible. So I'm kind of sort of like in the middle.
Yes.
I have no idea where I'm going to end up, but I'm going to trust that wherever it is, it's just all meant to happen.
The
But
truth
I
is
find it
nobody knows where they're going to end up. They
That's
just
true.
think they know.
That's true. But how you're saying you can tap into those, so you could be sitting with me or anybody, and you can feel that person's vibration. What are you talking about? Emotions, or what? When you say that, what do you mean exactly?
Well, you know what telepathy is, that you know what someone else is thinking or about to say. And
Mm-hmm.
in particular, when I get around high vibration friends, etc., I can, it's almost like we don't need to talk because I know what they're going to say right before they say it. And so the vibrational field is communicating
Mm-hmm.
so much more efficiently. And this is the beauty, the miracle of our bodies, that we are able to pick up on that, just like animals do. They know when something's coming, they can hear things a mile away, they can feel the vibration of your intention. We can feel that
Right.
too. We just
Yeah.
have discounted it
Ex-
and value, like we spend so much time hearing someone's words, and oftentimes our gut or another part of us saying this doesn't feel true, or this isn't
mhm.
really true, or they're fooling themselves, or whatever. You can feel it, but we don't
Right.
pay attention to it. And part of the journey of healing is to acknowledge, to value, to validate that over and over and over until that becomes your truth. That's how we know what truth is. It's the vibrational resonance that resonates within us. Then we know the truth. Everything everybody's saying, and even science, to me, only speaks a part of it. The real truth, the universal truth, is spoken through a vibrational field, and we can feel it. We can feel the
Yeah.
truth.
That's So that to me almost sounds like when you just know claircognizance and you just
Yes.
know what
Yes.
it is. And it's reminding me even of some things that I'm experiencing lately. Like even, how I told you about that with my partner and his medical problems and stuff like that. And knew, I knew before any doctor knew what it was. But, that was trusting, like learning to trust my feelings,
Right.
learning to trust what's coming in. And so also though too, when you said sometimes, then I said, explain to me what that's like when you're sitting in front of another person, you can, it's almost like feeling their thoughts or whatever, but it's just almost feeling their essence maybe, right? Like their,
Yeah, you can feel there. I mean, like I told you, I could feel your sweetness even in your email exchanges. There's almost like this pink, fluffy light that I could feel in our exchanges. And you can also feel, I mean, one of the reasons I don't like to go to the grocery store, I can feel when someone's got something really stuck, stuck.
yeah,
I can feel it in my body. It literally feels
yeah,
almost like I get stabbed, or there's a heaviness or a darkness, and I can feel the general
yeah.
energetic of it. And I know that my being is clearing, working
Mhm.
at it. No matter, I don't even have to identify it. I try not to focus on it too much because it can be rather overwhelming if I put all my focus there. But it's just, it just emerges. You can feel what people emotions, you can feel what they really mean when they say whatever. We're all taught to be nice, and
Right.
niceness tends to be
Hmm.
a lot of words and not
Hmm.
necessarily the truth. You
Hmm.
feel what the truth really is, and it takes, I think, the more we evolve into being one with the all, with the whole, that we really start to move towards simplicity, because you
Hmm.
don't need for a ton of words and all the, you get more and more into the mind.
Exactly. That is the
resides in
mind.
the field of
Yeah.
what's happening.
But even the heart, though, too, because I want to share something, is that I remember a person I worked with, and she would say, truth be told, and then she would think it gave her permission to just say whatever, blurt out whatever without coming from here. And I feel like each one of us can say truth, but no matter what it is that we're saying, if it comes from the heart, it will never be harsh.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for saying that, Sherry, because that's absolutely true. And
Yeah, because yeah, it's a big one, right? Because people get on this thing about speaking our truth, and that is very empowering. But if it's coming from the personal self that's feeling attacked and speaking
right,
whatever it is,
right,
that's not speaking truth.
right. And I think also that when we speak truth, that it's coming from the heart, it really is coming from the heart of compassion. Like you
Right.
understand that this is, I mean, it's not a mental understanding, it's just you get that this is that it's a heartfelt essence of you. I mean, there's tons
Hmm.
of things I know about things. I don't speak them. They don't need to be spoken. I don't need to say everything that I know, and I think I always ask, is this something I should reveal, or is this something that would be helpful? Because there's no point in that either. You know what I mean? We don't have an agenda if we just hold a compassionate field. If anyone is in a way doing whatever, like not being entirely honest or whatever from our perspective, it's not our job to intervene. We have to be, in integrity within ourselves in the masculine feminine balance, and that's a full-time job.
It is. And I think that's another thing too. When we understand that this is the soul's journey, it becomes so much less about other people. And this is where, the personal self thinks this is self-indulgence. I think anyway, in my mind, this is how I interpret it. And that's why we stay away from the self-love journey, because the personal self has us conditioned to believe that spending so much time on ourselves is selfish. And yet that's the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and anybody that's in our life, all those that we're around. Because when we work on ourselves, we're not worried about what other people are doing. We're only thinking like, I need to clear myself and understand that it's their journey. And if they're not in alignment, then it's like, okay, well, you know what? We don't need to attack them or judge them. It's just, this isn't a right match for me. This isn't a right vibration for me. This is not in alignment. And so we just sort of separate from that. Um, and I'm not even sure what my point is, but I do feel like this all is very important for all of us when we're on this journey of love.
Absolutely. One of the greatest teachings of Mary Magdalene that I just love is about owning our own personal pain, like owning our own pain, and whenever someone in our field is triggering us, that's just a calling for us to come inside and look at, where am I doing this to myself, or where am I? Because it isn't about the other person. We're triggered. That's pain we're carrying around, and they're actually doing us a gift, triggering us so that we can look at what it is inside of ourselves instead of attacking. And we've gotten so, because we have such an externalized culture, that the whole patriarchal culture of thinking everything's out there, it's not out there. Something's triggering us, it's our pain. And I love how she really emphasizes to own our own pain, and to really keep bringing it inward, and to be self-responsible
Right.
instead of attacking and projecting and blaming, etc. It's a huge teaching, because we have so disconnected from that, so dishonored that, and the ego always thinks, oh, if I could just put the blame on someone else, that
Yes.
frees me, I don't have to deal with it. And I practiced that many moons. I mean, was not foreign to me. It took a
Hmm.
lot to recognize that every single thing that happens in our world, good and bad, I mean, beautiful souls and beautiful events are also a
Hmm.
reflection of ourselves, but there's nothing happening out there that's not happening in here first.
Right. Absolutely. And I totally agree, because even for myself, the heart opening was through forgiveness, through my own stuff. We're not going to go into that, but I do know it was through truly forgiving And I remember it never came from the mind. It was through meditation, and it wasn't through your standard meditation. It was through listening to a song like Let There Be Peace on Earth, and really being part of that, seeing myself as let it be me. Let that be me. And then seeing myself joining hands with others who are on that journey of peace and
That's
harmony and
beautiful.
love. And, and just bringing the loving vibration in as much as we can, and changing the consciousness and stuff like that. So but for each one of us, it's going to be different,
Yes, it is.
but the teachings. So I want to lead you now to your offer and everything. So do you want me to pull up your offer, or are you comfortable just sort of sharing with people what it is that you are going to be offering them if they decide to work with you, which by the way, I highly recommend that you do. Your work has truly spoken to my heart, and I know you've already done. I don't even know what's happened since you came into my world, but I know it's just like another layer. It's like I can't love anymore. I can't see my heart getting any softer, but yet it just constantly is. And so it's just sort of that awareness when you come to a teacher that you recognize that is truly genuine and really truly in alignment with your heart and your soul. Grace is one of them. You really are. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
mm, and thank
So
you.
thank you. I appreciate meeting you as well. And I was going to initially talk about my fall class, but in my classes, I do a masculine feminine model because I'm clearing, healing, emotional trauma, unresolved emotional trauma blocks from past lives. And I'm working very deeply now, really through the mother energy with people. So I'm working on people 24/7, the whole class, to liberate them in order to be able to perceive or to embody much more deeply the concepts that I'm teaching. And the next class, I'm going to do a healing circle in December that will be a solstice, Christmas healing circle. And whatever is the theme that arises at the solstice will likely come through. And I don't know what that will be, but the healing will be centered on that. And then in the winter, I always teach a self-love class. It is a series of Zoom sessions. And it is really, as I said, at the deepest level. Many people teach self-love, but I'm teaching at the level of the masculine feminine relationship within ourselves and how to foster harmony in that relationship. Because right now, everything we're seeing on the outer is actually what's happening inside of us as well. And we have a lot of we have the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Then we have what I call the rogue masculine that's just been suppressing both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And so the self-love is about learning how we're doing that to ourselves to shift those behaviors, to have a much more peaceful, joyful, liberated relationship within ourselves with those energies, but with ourself, because ultimately it is with our divine feminine and our divine masculine. So I teach, every week I go through self-forgiveness, self-compassion, self-responsibility, self-integrity, self-commitment. I mean, these issues to just talk about some of the main ways that we are denying ourselves without even realizing it, and then how to sort of work with those. And then I give people exercises for the week to start changing behavior. And then by doing the background healing, I think people have a much easier road of changing habits, because we don't realize even the behaviors we've gotten into that are self-defeating, self-sublimating, self-sabotaging, because it is really the battery of the masculine and the feminine is really going on within ourselves in a large part. So I'm teaching that in the spring, and I welcome everyone to, in the winter. And I don't know what I'll be teaching next year yet because it hasn't come through.
Right. Yeah, well, you're always sort of kind of working with you're always being guided and stuff. But I think I'm going to be signing up for that too, Grace. And as you were sharing, the self-love one, I think what came to me though too is that how you're teaching like self-integrity and self commitment. I think that was one of the words that you had shared. This is where we struggle so much because we betray ourselves.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
this is our disconnection from the heart, the soul that we are. And this is what our wound is. Every one of us has
Yes.
sacred wounds. And so when you were saying Mary Magdalene, what you were saying about her is, I've always said, making like pain is a doorway to the sacred.
Yes. It
Because for
totally
me,
is.
it really was. It really was. And if we could truly understand that when we're going through these moments that feel so, like defeating and just like betrayal and just like your heart is dropped and how am I going to go on? This is why self-love is so important
Right. It's so true. We
because
have to
when
become
when
our own
we
best friend.
yeah, and it isn't even just like we're by ourselves because we're carrying this divine love energy within and it's so powerful. And then you get to that point where you decide that if that's the only relationship you ever had, if you had a choice between all these relationships that were not genuine and real and authentic and aligned with the soul, I would much rather just be by myself and have that relationship with self.
Absolutely. And honestly, you don't get lonely if you,
No.
because you have that very rich relationship within yourself. And that's when the flow of love is running through you and it heals the body. I mean, it heals everything. It heals your relationships, but it heals everything in your life, including your body.
Yeah.
It's
And
essential.
I believe that. I think that the thing is that we waver, we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's getting more in alignment with that and realizing and noting, what that different, noticing that different vibrational feeling,
Yes.
the essence of that energy when it's in, when you are embodying that. And so you were talking about the Divine Mother too, and the lower chakras, and that's really fully embodying our soul, our essence, and not going up there to have this big experience of the divine. It's like, no, we're going to like literally land this and be soul embodied in this
Right.
lifetime.
Right. Right. I mean, I think oftentimes we think of ascension as leaving, but the truth is, ascension is living here embodied as a divine being. There's,
Right.
and the embodiment requires the purification of the body in order for us to hold that higher vibration and consciousness, even as we are living life here on earth
Right.
and being a
Right.
part of the solution, basically, instead of being a part
Yeah.
of the problem.
And speaking of that, you are very much part of the solution. And so, Grace, as we come to an end, first thing I want to make sure is there anything that you would like to say? Like, what is your legacy? When we talk about the legacy of love, what would you like your legacy to be? What would you like to be remembered for?
I think that's a good question. Interestingly, I think grace and compassion would be the yeah, that I would hope to be remembered as grace
Yeah,
and
and you were named
compassion.
Grace. You were named Grace. So how beautiful is that? And I have a story about Grace, but we don't have one time. I know I'm not done with you, Grace. I know that I will be following you and learning with you and evolving, because your teachings truly are, you can feel them. So when you're talking about vibration, it's not, the mind is going to take it in, but it's the heart, it's my body that feels you when you're talking. And I was sharing with you even just your titles. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know when this all happened, when all of a sudden I became so devotional and so devoted to the sacred, but I am. And I know it's where I'm being led, and I'm very much feeling the divine feminine and the divine mother. I feel her, I love her, and I love you. I love you for everything that you're offering us for
Thank you.
this awakening and remembering and healing. And so I truly just thank you for holding this space and for bringing in healing for me today when that happened. Because, yeah, I got triggered when you were talking about the eyes. It brought up some emotions in me, remembering. And so, but you said it wasn't about the eyes, it's about something else that wants to move. So I trust that. And I trust that, I just highly recommend that people go and listen to find out more about you, listening to the recordings that you have with Loren. and listening to your meditations because they're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ah,
Thank you.
yeah. And that's even like I'm feeling so drawn to that kind of stuff myself too, because that is just so healing. You can feel it. So when you're talking about vibration being such an important aspect of what you do, I can see why.
Yeah, when I do the classes, I have some of the feminine Christ deities come in to work with me. That was their promise to me if I would come forth and teach in the world, which wasn't necessarily something I wanted to do, but they really do come through. So different deities come in depending on the theme of the class, and it creates this healing environment, and tremendous amount of healing is happening in the class as I'm talking.
Mhm.
And as I said before and after, I'm constantly doing healing work so that it can liberate people to really see things differently, but
Yeah.
through body experience. So it is very
Yeah.
much a vibrational field that does the healing, and it is the vibrational field of love that
It,
heals.
it, well, my body, Grace, listening to your meditation, uh, I can't tell you how many times I was just covered in wave upon wave of shivers, of remembrance or whatever was. I don't know. You would probably know more about that, but it was just my body was resonating with everything. And it was just like, so yeah, there is so much wisdom in our bodies.
Totally. And most of the people that come to me now feel that something is
Hmm.
happening, or they get really knocked out by one of my meditations, and so then
Yeah.
they don't even know what happened. And that's that's the beauty of the mother and the
Yeah.
energy, really the
Yeah.
power of love. And
Yeah.
and oftentimes people all of a sudden realize, it just awakens a longing in them, like, oh my God, I've been looking for this for so long. And it is really that a vibrational field that's calling them in, that the body knows that your mind doesn't even know what's going on.
Exactly. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So love is what is calling us all back home.
Exactly. It is.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you so much, Grace, for this beautiful,
Oh,
sacred conversation.
thank
I
you,
just,
Sherry.
yes, yes, I know my journey is not done with you.
And I love you too, Sherry. Hope to see
Yeah.
you soon.
Yeah. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in and listening to both of us sharing with you. And I'm sending you love, peace, and blessings. Namaste, beautiful ones.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.